Hey guys, welcome to Advanced Java. This is lesson 1. Before we get started, I want to encourage you guys to join the Sang forum. We'll have the link in the description. It's basically a place where you can make a post so you can ask questions and then teachers can come in and answer any questions you have. And instead of having to come to office hours, which are only at a specific time, you can just do it whenever it's convenient for you. So when you make a post, you'll go to new topic and then title your post with your question and then explain further here if you need. And then you can tag it with your difficulty level and also your language. So we would be Java Advanced. So yeah, if you guys ever need to use that, that's now a resource you guys can use. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about setting up our project, graphics, and classes. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to create a background as well as a screen class for our game. So our end goal is going to be a game like this, like a Space Invaders type game. So it'll be a little something like this where we can be moving up and down and then hit spacebar to shoot these little red balls at these alien blobs. So pretty cool. Okay, graphics. If you haven't already, you're going to want to create a CodePad account. So go to codepad.app, create an account and log in, and then make a remix of this CodePad, which is essentially some starter code we've provided. So that'll get you through all of the boring stuff and the stuff that's a bit more complicated so you can get to making the game. And then you're going to share your project with your teacher. That way they can take a look and help you out with any debugging that needs to happen. So back to graphics, which are basically the tools that allow us to draw these objects. So instead of being forced to only use text, which is useful but maybe hard to make a game, we're going to use graphics to be able to draw these images. So in our starter code, you'll see this long list of Java files, which might look confusing, but we'll explain part by part. So first we have runner.java. This is basically what is going to be starting all of the code, but it just initializes stuff and it doesn't really do anything else. Then screen.java, that's the biggest part of it, is essentially the main part of the game. It does the collision, like it decides when things should happen. It draws. It's basically the main boss. Listener.java, just like the name says, it's going to be listening for inputs from the user. So basically it'll be checking the keyboard, and if you press spacebar or up and down, then it'll tell screen.java that it needs to do the appropriate action. Ship.java, that's basically the player. It's what we're going to be moving up and down with arrow keys. Projectile, those are the red bullets I showed you earlier. Enemy.java, the enemies that are going to be spawning and coming at you from the right. CanAnimate.java and Drawable.java are going to be interfaces that I'll explain later, and they basically just help us organize our code. And then the last Java files are Planet.java and Star.java. These are basically just decorative files that are going to allow us to generate that background. And then Planet.png and Alien.png are just going to be images that we're pasting. Okay, so now go to runner.java and take a look. You'll see import javax.swing.jframe. That's basically just going to be an import because JFrame is not built into the Java package by default, so we have to import it. Then we have this JFrame. This is basically the main window that stuff is going to be in. Okay, so inside the paint component method, you can call g dot and then whatever method you want to call. So in this example, we have fill rect and fill oval and draw rect and draw oval. So basically what fill does is it draws that shape, but it fills the inside with a color, while draw will just draw the shape and only have the outline. So yeah, basically you can put a bunch of stuff in this paint component method. Okay, so now color, if you want your things to be different colors, you're gonna have to learn to use RGB, which stands for red, green, blue. And it basically defines a color based on how many of each of these three primary colors it has. So each color, R, G, and B, will have a value of 0 to 255. And now obviously you can't just like know what color is which value, so you can look up an RGB color picker, and then basically you can pick a color and then it'll tell you what RGB value that is. So in this example, we're defining the color cyan as a new color with values 51, 204, and 204, and then we can do g.setColor. And the way setColor works is that all your future drawings will then be that color until you change it. So from g.setColor, everything after will be red, and then once we set it to blue, everything after will be blue. So now you can pause and create your background. You can kind of add whatever you want. You can keep it space themed, or if you have something else in mind, you can work on that as well. And then we just have some of the methods we learned. So you can pause and go ahead and do that. Okay, so hopefully you got a background that you're happy with. Now we're going to move on to interfaces. An interface is basically like the blueprint of a class, which tells you what kind of behavior it's going to have, but it only tells you what kind of methods it will have. It doesn't tell you how they work because the methods aren't implemented. And all variables in an interface are public, static, and final, which means that any class can read or modify the variable. And they're static, which means it belongs to the class itself, not an instance. So it's not an instance variable. And final means that the variable must be initialized when it's declared or in a constructor. So here we have an example of an interface. We have public interface animal, and we have string animal sound and void run, as well as int sounds. So we can see animal sound and run aren't implemented. We don't know what they do because they don't do anything yet. And this is what you're going to be typing, but it's going to behave as if you had typed this. So it's going to be abstract, and then final. So now we have a class example that implements our previous interface. So we see implements animal, and then we see our method animal sound and run are at override, which basically tells Java that we're implementing those previously unimplemented methods. And so now we have our own way of implementing these things that we're required to have, but it's not required to run a specific way. So in our case, we're returning wolf and printing the dog is running. But that could be different for a different animal. So like a cat class might have a different thing here. Okay, so now you're going to create an interface called drawable that requires a method called drawMe that contains graphics G. And then this interface should be a separate class. And also you're going to have to import java.awt.graphics. Okay, so hopefully you're able to get something. It should look a little something like this. This is really all you need. You just need import, and then public interface drawable, and then public void drawMe. The interface drawable that we just created is very important because it's implemented by the ship, projectiles, enemies, and then our decorations. So basically anything we see on the screen is going to have this drawable interface implemented. And then in the screen class, which if you remember is basically what does most of the work, it draws things, it does the logic. You might notice that it extends JPanel, and the JPanel is basically the blank canvas that we're able to draw stuff in. And then JPanels sit inside of JFrame, which is a window. So if you look at like your Google tabs, at the top right if you're on Windows and top left if you're on a Mac, you'll see those three little icons that allow you to like control the window, like deleting it and minimizing it. That stuff all belongs to the window because it's basically the container that the JPanel sits in. So inside the JPanel, we can use paint component, which we talked about earlier, to draw stuff. So now in your screen class, you're going to have these instance variables, constructors, and methods. They're all going to be private. You're going to have create a timer, and then an animate function, and then a constructor, and then these methods. Okay, and that's it for today. As usual, we have our Tuesday and Sunday office hours at this place. They'll also be in your parents' email. And if you can't make it to these, we now have our Sang forum, like I mentioned earlier, so you can post a question there.